everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of the One Lane Road Podcast. I'm Lucas.
And I'm DK, I guess.
That was a genuine mistake.
Genuine mistake, but it happened.
No, I was looking at you.
Yeah.
No, we're just being silly, but hey, the new show this week, we're going to be joined here in a few minutes by
Chad Flatt.
Chad Flatt, our friend. Some of you may know from the podcast world for Pro Wrestling Weekly. And actually, he's joining us tonight to talk about his new podcast where you can find, or all podcasts are available.
on iTunes,
Stitcher, and
all those other places. He's got a interesting podcast he's got coming up there. He's covering the 84 weeks that WCW, WCW was beating WWF in the ratings wars, right?
Right. That was from 90. I don't know if I think in 96 they took over, in May of 96 and run it for 2 years. WWF had never had any competition like that, and WCW come in and kind of put a stranglehold on them for a couple of years. And that podcast is called Monday is War.
Mm-hmm.
He's got Johnny. I don't know whether they call him John Ward, Johnny Kayfabe, what to call him. I don't know if we're staying in character here or not. But
right.
Boy from Baxter helping him out on the show. Like I said, pretty interesting concept. The developer there at the Fans Podcast came up with the idea per se, and then run it by Chad and John. They're off and running. I think they're on episode 4 now.
Yeah, they couldn't have picked a better guy to do it either. I mean, when it comes to wrestling, he's like you with football, buddy. He knows it.
Yeah, and he maybe more so because I didn't ever always watch football. He's always watched wrestling. Maybe,
right.
So yeah, he's pretty great about it. And like I said, we've talked about his voice 100 times on here.
Oh, yeah.
He needs to be running a 900 number if anything else happens after his podcast career. But we'll go ahead and give him a call and get him chatting about some pro wrestling.
Hello.
Chad Flatt. How are you doing, bud?
Good. How's it going?
It's going good, man.
Now, that's not the proper introduction we need to give for a man like Chad Flatt. We need to plug him.
Need to plug him. Plug this guy.
Are we live on the air? Are we coming in hot here?
We're coming in hot. Coming in hot.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got, as advertised, Chad Flatt, host of the Pro Wrestling Weekly podcast, and also
That's the way to
Monday is War. Monday is War podcast. Yes,
that is me. Yeah.
We're not hardly as up on the introductions as you, man. Give me your introduction that you give every week for Pro Wrestling Weekly.
Oh man, Lord have mercy. It's quite lengthy. I don't know if you want me to break that out or not. I'll just tell everybody to tune in and hear it on the show.
There you go.
Drive our numbers up a little bit.
There you go. You just hooked me. I was waiting to get schooled, and then now all of a sudden I'm going to listen to a podcast.
It's one of those things you just kind of develop and learn as you go, I guess. I didn't have any, I didn't read any textbooks or take any classes on it. Just one of those things that just comes along, I guess.
Learn through attrition. That's how it happens. That's the best way to learn.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, I always get tickled. I always get not tickled, but I just love hearing the introduction for your show when you hadn't you've lived up to the same hype on the new podcast as well. It's the one you give for your partner. That's just pretty entertaining for me every week to you just add on every single week. You add on to the lore of Johnny
we did that this week as well. We added a little something this week. We just recorded episode 4 of Monday is War right before you called me, so I added a little something extra this week. So his introduction is going to be the whole show before it's said and done.
Yeah. Well, so for anybody that didn't maybe listen to the first time you were on with us, of course, like you said, with your partner Keelia Cash on Pro Wrestling Weekly, which you can find on the Fans Podcast. Now you've got yourself into your second podcast. Like we said, Monday is War. Give us just a little bit of information how that came about and kind of the premise of the show.
Well, I guess I'm a sucker because they've talked me into doing a second show now. Like I didn't have enough on my plate. But, the guy that runs the network, Steve, he's had a lot of success there building that network at the Fans Podcast. It started out strictly just his show about pro wrestling, and then he brought in some other hosts and some other shows, and it's kind of grown now into some other parts of entertainment. They've got shows on there. There's a Simpsons podcast and a South Park podcast and all kinds of stuff. But he approached me and wanted to know if I knew anyone that'd be interested in hosting a show about the mid to late '90s era of pro wrestling, the Monday Night Wars, when WCW Monday Nitro and the WWF Monday Night Raw was going head to head every Monday night, and all the crazy things that came out of that. And I told him I'd ask around, and I had a buddy who had done a little bit of a podcast with me before, but it didn't get picked up, and so he was kind of wanting to get back into it. And I asked him, and he said sure. And Johnny Kayfabe was born, and we teamed up, and now we've got this second show going.
Johnny Kayfabe to me sounds like a lot like a guy named John Ward from Baxter, Tennessee.
They do have some similarities in their speech pattern. I've never seen them in the same place at the same time.
Isn't it weird how that works out?
It's odd.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really is.
Uh-huh.
So that's everybody that's been a fan of pro wrestling generally can always revert back to two time periods of wrestling. Of course, of the late '80s with the Hulk Hogan, the Ultimate Warrior, and Ric Flair, Macho Man Randy Savage, and that time period. Then, of course, the one that you're on is arguably the biggest of all time with Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock and Generation X and then NWO and Goldberg. So it's kind of an easy sell. You don't have to really push too hard to sell this to wrestling listeners. But the thing being, the Monday Night Wars have been almost beat to death. So, but what you're doing is a completely different a different way of doing it. So tell us how you're spicing it up, giving us a different perspective of how it has been done in the past.
Well, yeah, you're exactly right, and that was one of my kind of things that kind of made me a little bit gun shy about maybe doing this. Was it has been beaten to death. There's been DVD sets produced, books written, WWE Network special, countless shoot interviews and podcast interviews with people involved, and it's been all over the place. But it's a little over 20 years ago that really all that got started. So the last few years there hadn't been as much about it. But I just wanted to tackle it from a fan's perspective, as somebody that's been a fan of the industry for 30 plus years and happen to know some of the guys involved in the Monday Night Wars now, as I've kind of gotten to know the last few years and some things there. So just one of those things that I wanted to kind of try to bring a different spin from a fan's perspective. And we're kind of approaching this. We're trying really hard not to do any spoilers, and even though it sounds silly not to do spoilers for something that happened 20 years ago, but there's quite a few young fans out there listening that didn't live through that time period, that maybe don't have the knowledge or didn't experience that, and we're kind of trying to bring that bring that element to them, and kind of explain what a special time it was if you were a fan during that time period.
Isn't it neat how this medium is kind of the podcast medium has brought that whole new generation into things that they never even knew existed, that we just happened to live through years ago. But it's just such a interesting time for all them new people to come learn things just so quickly like that.
Oh yeah, I mean the age of information and the internet's made a lot of things possible. But yeah it's funny. There's a podcast out there literally for anything you can think of, pretty much.
Yeah.
I gave it the old maniac pop, as you and I like to say sometimes. I popped like the maniac would when I heard the spoiler thing on the. I just couldn't believe. I was thinking, man, they're really talking about something that happened 21 years ago, and you're having to worry about offending some fans. But like you and Lucas just touched on, it's new listeners every day. So they're I guess if some old timers was talking about 1970s wrestling to us 20 years ago, we'd be in the same boat. So
right.
So you're about to get to the big period on the podcast where the next episode we were pro wrestling changed forever. What was your Monday nights like when you were watching the NWO as it formed, and what Vince was doing on the other television? Where were you at on Mondays?
Well, I remember distinctly. I was during this era, 96, 97. I was a sophomore in college, and I was working at a grocery store there in my hometown in Cookeville, Tennessee. And I would race home every Monday night just in time to see Raw, which was a 1-hour program at the time. It hadn't expanded yet. It's crazy to think it's 3 hours today, but it was 1 hour then. And, I'd race home to see that, and then, watch Nitro. I kind of became aware of Nitro after it'd been on for a couple months, and just had kind of started watching it right before Scott Hall came over and the whole deal started going. But I'd race home after work and I'd watch Raw and I'd flip back and forth. And I had to, there was no cell phone in those days, so I had my cordless telephone in my hand.
Yeah.
And if anything big was happening on the other channel, somebody would call and tell me. So I'd flip over there back and forth, and I had the VCR going, recording everything. And it sounds like the Stone Ages to people now, but it really wasn't that long ago in the grand scheme of things. But man, times sure have changed a lot. Technology's changed everything. But back then I was watching one show and taping them both and going back and rewatching stuff, and back and forth, and it was just an exciting time if you were a fan of the business, like I said.
A lot of people are going to hear that comment and your answer and kind of chuckle at that, but really when we were into this thing, as hot as it was, and you never knew who or what was going to appear on WCW programming at the time. Like they were always having someone defect from Vince's television over to Turner's, and so every Monday night with their live aspect, and also of course you'll get into it later on in the November '97 episode. Rick Rude was on both shows at one time, and the only man to ever obviously do that in history, and was also on an ECW on the very same weekend before. So you just never knew what was going on programming at the time.
Yeah, it was definitely exciting. It made it that much more fun to watch because there was that element of unpredictableness. Now we kind of, as fans, if you've been a long time fan, you can kind of watch and predict what's going to happen, or you can go online and read about everything and all the countless sites and everything that's available out there information wise. And back then, the internet was a fairly new thing. It only been around 2 or 3 years, and there wasn't 5 million pro wrestling sites and 1,000 pro wrestling podcasts and everything else to get all this inside information. So a lot of the fans, and that's kind of one of the things we talked about on the episode that we just recorded this week, a lot of the fans were seeing these guys and learning about these guys for the first time by watching them on TV, and they were watching this unfold, and there was a definite reality element to this whole NWO angle that a lot of people hadn't seen before, and as people were following along with it, it just kind of drew people in and played on their emotions with the Hogan heel turn, the guy that had been the All-American hero for a whole generation that people had grown up watching since they were a kid, and then he turns his back on the fans and says, I did it for the money, the fans can stick it, and that kind of hit a chord with everybody, and that's really what led to that huge boom period during the mid to late '90s.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of, I've been trying to go back and watch some of these episodes when I get a chance. I kind of caught up over the weekend, going back on my network and kind of reminiscing about some of the stuff that you guys are talking about, and I've been doing the same thing. I've been getting to listen to Bruce Pritchard's podcast that I've talked to you about, and it's kind of cool. Like they'll talk about a particular guy from the '90s or whatnot, and I'll go back on YouTube and check that out. It's always kind of cool to reminisce. But something you said that surprised me is knowing yourself and how big of a fan you've always been. I was really surprised when you said you almost quit watching WCW that before '95 or before '96 right then, because for you to be able to just you've always been able to pop off these small market independent promotions. So I never dreamed that you stopped watching any product, especially as big as WCW.
Yeah, I kind of fell out with WCW right about the time that Turner bought the company in '88.
Oh, okay.
I sort of drifted away from WCW and strictly watched WWF and then local Memphis wrestling and stuff. But I got away from it from '88 up through till about the early '96, I guess, when I got in college and started being more aware. I started finding stuff online and kind of got me interested in what was going on this other show. And a buddy of mine had actually won tickets from the radio station there in Cookville, the Country Giant. He won 2 tickets to a Monday Nitro taping in Knoxville back in February of '96. And I didn't even know that there was such an animal as Monday Nitro.
Wow.
He called me and told me that he had won these tickets. And he knew I liked wrestling. I said, well, yeah, I'll go, So we went and saw Hogan, Savage, the Road Warriors, and Flair and Arn Anderson and Sting and, the whole 9 yards. And I was like, well, there's a lot of big name stars on the show. I need to start checking this out. So that kind of got me watching that. So I tuned in right before everything started happening. And of course, since then, I went back and filled in the gap and watched a lot of the stuff from the years that I missed out on. But yeah, I drifted away from good old WCW there for quite a while.
So I know what years to stump you on if we ever do any trivia. I know what to hit the,
That's my weak spot right there. You found my weak spot.
Don Asbury he actually stopped watching around the time he was 18 or 19. So if I ever need to stump him, it's like 93, 94 WWF stuff.
Yeah.
So,
well, he picked a good time to quit there.
Yeah.
So that was a rough era from about 93 to 97.
Around that time period, you talking about how you just kind of picked up on, picking up, finding WCW, and the comment I liked about what you said was that you always kind of stuck with WWF, and I remember me and Don Asbury both telling people, everybody was all excited, and of course the NWO was an exciting thing, but the cruiserweights and all that stuff was coming in. They had a great product, but man, me and Don would tell them towards the middle of '97, like, man, they're really gaining some traction over here on WWF. This is really just as good. You need to check out this Stone Cold guy and check out Michaels and all these guys. And a lot of our WCW fans, they wasn't having it. They thought that was the best thing since sliced bread. And 6 months later, 10 months later, they finally jumped on board with the rest of us. But I really thought Vince, even though they hit a downtime, he never really stopped making bad television. Thanks a large part, not just because he's my favorite, but Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker kind of really held that place together in '96.
Oh yeah, they were the stalwarts there for sure. The two guys that stayed loyal to the WWF all through that time period when other guys were jumping over to WCW for bigger guaranteed money. They stayed there with WWF, and they were two of the guys that he really built that era around in a lot of ways, along with the emergence of Austin and The Rock and some other things they came into. But it was the success of the NWO angle and the success of Monday Nitro and the success of WCW that really pushed Vince to change the direction of his programming and get a little bit more edgier and a little bit more, kind of cater more to an older audience and get rid of some of the cartoonish stuff that he'd been doing for so long. And that's when both shows, as you said, started getting really good. And, there was a lot of good stuff from that time period. And I'm sure a lot of people listening right now couldn't give a crap less about wrestling today, but, they remember those days because that's when they watched it. They loved Stone Cold. They wanted to see what he was going to do this week, and they wanted to see what The Rock was going to come out and say, and they wanted to see what DX was up to, and they wanted to see what kind of crazy bump Mick Foley was going to take, or, what The Undertaker was doing, or, all that. And then over on the other side, you had the NWO, and the emergence of Goldberg later on and stuff, but it was just it was an unbelievable time period for the industry. Probably, I don't think something that could ever be duplicated again, without a doubt.
Yeah, there's no competition now, so like you said, it's pretty safe to say it don't ever be duplicated. And Lucas, you and I were teenagers, just full of testosterone, build up 14-year-olds, and when your demographics 18 to 34, and you're out there with middle fingers and beer and half naked women, that was all. That was all for a 14-year-old's pleasure to watch.
Oh yeah, it was. You just eat it up whenever Stone Cold's out there flipping people off and just smashing beers together and pouring them all over himself. You thought, yeah, that's it right there, Jack.
Yeah, and little Sonny and Sable skimping around in half. Nothing. That was always my favorite part.
I'm sure both of you more than once got in trouble with your parents for telling somebody to suck it back in the day. So.
I gave the DX chop to more people than I could imagine. I got slapped for it more than once too.
Hey, this is a true story. We were one of my dad's coworkers in Jackson County, and I was going around kind of being just naive to the fact that I was 13 years old and giving the crotch chop. And and this guy pulled me off the side. I don't know if my dad ever even knew he'd done it, and he basically told me, listen, you little degenerate. I don't know how bad that that looks or not, but he said, you look pretty ridiculous, so why don't you cut that out while you're at my house? I told him he wasn't down with that.
You just had two words for him, didn't you?
That's it. Now looking back, I can just see Waylon going around to one of my buddies' house and giving those suck it signs. So it's thank God.
And then getting told about it and having to shake your head and just walk out embarrassed after it happened.
Yeah, what could you do? Yeah, it was a great time period for sure. And like you said, people now either A, don't watch it, or B, watch it and are ashamed to watch it. But everybody that I know, and that's what makes this podcast successful, because everybody can relate. Everybody remembers what they done on Monday. Everybody still remembers their Monday night routine. Everybody remembers, this or that about that and growing up watching that stuff. So that's always going to be relevant. I think it's neat that you're giving the fans perspective when it's been beat to death by the promotions, and with Johnny Kayfabe being the WCW guy, it's always nice to have that side because everything has been produced, nationally, other than maybe some shoot interviews, has been with a little bit of a WWE influence, So it's always nice to hear.
Well, that's true. I mean, history's written by the victors, and they won the war, and they bought WCW and crushed the competition finally. So, I mean, they're going to tell things from their perspective, but, there's no denying that for a large part of that time period, WCW had the superior product and the superior talent and was presenting a better show. So that's kind of what we try to bring, each week on our podcast. We go through each show, and we talk about the matches and some of the things that were going on, some of the notable things, some of the storylines that were developing, or some of the guys that debuted that would later on, go on to be legendary names. And it's kind of cool to look back now, a little over 20 years ago, and see guys like Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero, guys like that, they first came along, before they were really anybody, and knowing what they became. But, we try to play it fair and honest and give our honest opinions on it. And, even though I was a WWF fan for a lot of that time, I still tip my cap to them because they were beating the pants off the WWF there for 84 straight weeks. So, you can't really deny that.
Yeah, and to go back to tell our listeners that you're only covering the 84 weeks that WCW won over WWF. You're not doing the entire. You picked up from the first week they won till the last week they won, which is a neat concept as well. What would be your favorite match in that time period, you think, that from each company?
Oh, man, that's a lot to cover there. I'd have to really sit down and give that some more thought. I've probably forgotten a lot of stuff that happened during that time period. That's 20 years ago now, but half my life ago. But there was a lot of great stuff during that time period. A lot of the stuff that I don't remember exactly what year it was. It was probably a little bit after the 84-week streak ended. But I really enjoyed the Best of 7 series that Chris Benoit and Booker T had in WCW. I think that really put Booker T on the map as a single star, but I really enjoyed those matches. I always liked everything Benoit did at the ring, but there was just a lot of good stuff there. That sticks out in my mind from WCW. And of course, the Dean Malenko, Rey Mysterio cruiserweight matches and the Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio matches, especially the one from Halloween Havoc '97. If you hadn't seen that one, you need to go back and watch that one. That's probably one of the best matches of the last 30 years, much less during that time period. But there was a lot of good stuff, and a lot of good memories. And I think part of it is, you mentioned everybody had a routine. Well, we were, in our early college years, and we had some friends that were a couple of years younger than us that were in their latter high school years, and we'd all get together and we'd watch every pay-per-view. We'd all chip in a few bucks and watch the shows, and we'd check out all the live events when they'd come around. We'd all get a big group together and go, and I guess that's what it's all about in the end. It's just looking back on a time period and good memories with friends and just growing up during that time period and kind of becoming an adult. Some of the things that we got to see and experience. It was just a good time. And that's probably one of the things, we tend to romanticize about our youth a little bit and in younger years. But I think that too, along with what was actually taking place on TV, that kind of made that whole era a little bit more special, I guess.
Yeah, you probably got to enjoy it more than we did. We were just, like I said, we were teenagers, so we really didn't get to, we weren't in college pounding beers every time Goldberg speared somebody and getting to go to the live shows and act up a little bit and get to just happen to be living through the greatest time period in pro wrestling. But one thing I can look back at that time period and look at fondly is now, a lot of guys, whether it be the fact that the creative has went from 2 guys running the show with Vince and Pat to 30 people in a room, and Kevin Nash has got the best quote ever. He said, the best thing that sells in pro wrestling is violence and sex. And he said, you got a bunch of writers that's never been in a fight or never had sex. and not in those terms, but that was the podcast-friendly version of Kevin Nash's quote.
Right.
And, now they're just seeming like they're going out there. If you're not one of the main attractions, you kind of go out there just aimlessly each week. And the thing about the Attitude Era and that era, 97, 98, no matter whether you were the top guy or Taka Michinoku, you had a storyline, it seemed like. And now it seemed like there was more depth to it back then as far as storyline goes.
Yeah, Vince Russo, the head writer for the WWF at the time, he gets a lot of flack, and he takes almost all the credit for the success of that era, but I think it was more of a collective effort of his ideas and Vince McMahon and others kind of tweaking those ideas. But, he did. That's one thing I do give him credit for is he utilized the entire roster, had everybody involved in something. There was a storyline for everybody, and you got to know and connect with all those characters. And like you said, it's a lot different industry now, and there's a lot of things that's contributed to it, from the demise of WCW and the fact that there is no competition now to the fact that the WWE went public and they have shareholders and advertising partners and everybody else to answer to now. So they can't really push the envelope with their programming like they used to. And it's just a completely different industry from what it was 20 years ago. And it goes in peaks and valleys. And the 80s, the Hulkamania era, people thought that would never be topped. And then the mid-90s came along. The Monday Night Wars blew that out of the water. So they're just kind of waiting now for the next big thing to hit and the next big star to emerge and the industry to go on a big upswing and go mainstream again. But I don't know that with the way things are done now and the way that WWE's producing their programming, I don't know that person could break through if they were there, given the restrictions that are there. So
the restrictions.
I think.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think that I just think that the heights of the industry are what they were in the '90s, and I just don't think that that'll ever be surpassed. Even though WWE makes more money now and they're bigger globally and all those things, it's almost like the wrestling has become secondary now, or it's not as important because they have all these other revenue streams. They have the TV rights fees, the advertising dollars from their advertising partners. They've got, the merchandising is huge. They've got the network, which is a big money maker for them, and the live event attendance and the pay-per-view numbers and even the TV ratings aren't near as important as they used to be. So it's an entirely different industry, an entirely different business model than what it was 20, 30 years ago, for sure.
Well, there's just no competition to push. I mean, where's their, what's their reason for trying to put out a better product? They've got you hook, line, sinker because there's no competition.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have to, because if you want to see anything, you got to watch their show.
So, you got anything, Lucas, you going to throw in?
Well, yeah, but it doesn't have anything to do with old school stuff. I just had something pop up the other day in my feed over and over again that I was going to ask him about, but
go ahead.
it's all new school stuff. So I was on my social media the other day, and across the feed kept popping up something about the belt design, and some kind of controversy on it. What do you know anything about that?
Well, I know that they're about to redesign the Intercontinental title and the United States title, and there's a lot of people talking about what they might look like. But yeah, the belts kind of, to me, it's funny, the design of the titles are pretty much all the same with the big WWE corporate logo, and then the straps are just different colors, or the plates are a little bit different maybe, but that logo's front and center, so all the belts even look the same.
Okay.
So it's kind of gotten to the point now, and that's kind of like a little microcosm of the whole company. The way that they churn out people at the Performance Center, all the guys look the same, and
all have the same skills.
Just
yeah.
kind of been, it's just kind of been homogenized to watered down to the point now to where there's nothing. There's very few people that are unique, and the ones that are unique don't make it. And in the past, they would be some of the biggest stars. So, again, it's just kind of a byproduct of the way the business is now and the way business is done. But yeah, that's another thing that irks a lot of people. I don't lose a lot of sleep over belt designs, but I understand why people think it's a little odd, I guess, that they all kind of look alike.
Yeah, it was something that I swear I seen probably 10 memes in a row on it. I thought, well, I ought to look this up, but I just never took the time to. But also something I thought interesting was that there may have been an American flag on it before to some degree, but I thought it was interesting timing. If they're about to pop out a big American flag in the background of the WWE belt with the ties that the McMahon family has to Trump and that administration getting in, I wondered if there was anything around that, if they were trying to tie that around to it for some reason.
Well, it's funny because I figured they would really be touting their connection with Donald Trump, given that he's the president now. They hadn't really said much at all, if anything, about it on their program. But that belt you probably saw, that's probably the United States title, and it's had the red, white, and blue incorporated into it for a while. That's one of the ones they're redesigning now. I don't know what it's going to look like now, but I'm sure it'll have something like that in it still, probably.
They probably don't want protesters and rioters at their live events for being associated with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I'm sure the liberals may boycott WWE now. Linda McMahon's up for a cabinet position, so we'll see.
Get a bunch of sweet chin music out in the parking lot, be served up.
Yeah, that's what they need.
Yeah.
Hey, wrestling's already got enough odd ducks in the 20,000 seats there when they come to town without a bunch of goofy ass liberals running around. That's just my 2 cents on it. We don't need any of those.
I would say I'll keep my political views out of it right now, but I don't want to spoil the wrestling podcast. I already spoiled one on here, so I don't want to do another one.
But no, I just I never seen anybody flip out as much when that Raw world title was. I never even seen the belt first. Like Lucas said, I was on the internet and everybody was just going ballistic about the color of the belt and the design of the belt, and I could care less what it looks like. I mean, I mean, you're always going to think of Hogan. I mean, the 2 most iconic belts, is the Hogan and Warrior Eagle belt and the big gold belt for WCW. So after that, I really don't care what any belt looks like.
Yeah, that's another good example of the internet fan base, the vocal minority there that's always heard about things. You can't please a lot of the internet fans now because of all the information's out there. They know too much, and they're smarter than the company. At least they think they are in some cases.
They're smarter.
In some cases, they may be.
Yeah,
they may be, but
it's
1 out of 100.
It's one of those things where they'll just never be satisfied, no matter what happens. So I mean, they could let them design the belt, and they'd still found something wrong with it.
Yeah,
I'm so sick of the fans boycotting. Like that's one reason I stopped watching wrestling as much, because I get so sick of CM Punk being 3 years removed from the company, and every time we're in Chicago, we still hear his chants, or you go to one night they had a solid match somewhere, and they were still chanting for him, and then they just, they take over the match, and just, I get it, but you're only hurting yourself and the product itself by just looking like jack-offs, just sitting there yelling, and can we please stop "this is awesome" and during the introductions? That's basically where it starts now. Guys coming down the ramp, "This is awesome." Stop it.
Yeah, it's to me that's another kind of sort of trait of the younger generation of being selfish and everything's about them. And they go to the event just to shout stuff and try to be cute and try to be funny and try to be snarky with their comments and get a pop out of people and start a chant. And for some reason, at some point, the fans started feeling like that people were there to see them. And it's kind of like I'm a big baseball fan. There's a baseball umpire, Cowboy Joe West, and he's infamous for starting stuff with managers and players and trying to eject people and incite them to, get in a confrontation so he can bow up and throw them out of a game and become the star of the show. And it's kind of like that with the fans in wrestling now. They think that people are there to see them rather than just sitting back and enjoying the show. And, when I go to an event, I'm pretty quiet. I sit back, I might clap, and I might stand up to see something when the guy in front of me holds his sign up for 45 minutes. But
that's what happens when everybody gets a ribbon for participation. Everybody thinks everything's the same, no matter what.
And it's very very interesting, the fan base that you see at these events now compared to several years ago. It's just like nobody enjoys anything anymore.
A little bit different topic right now. The CM Punk and Brock Lesnar crossover to the UFC. There was the controversy over Brock Lesnar coming back and having some banned substance in his system, which wasn't a PED, which it's been classified as a PED. It was an estrogen blocking agent that was actually found in his system, which could or could not mean that he was on some type of performance enhancement. And then CM Punk coming in and actually, getting dismantled in the UFC by, a no-namer that come into the UFC just to fight him that had a similar record to that point, but was, had been training since he was, 7 or 8, 9 year old. How did that affect their popularity in the WWE culture?
I don't know that it really affected Lesnar much, if any at all. I think that he's just such a unique individual and such a unique talent. And, they can talk about, whatever was in his system and all that. And if he broke the rules, he broke the rules. But whatever he was taking, I don't think in any way, shape, or form helped him win that fight. And I think it's pretty remarkable that a guy can cross over from one thing to another like that, be as successful as he has.
Mm-hmm.
And, if he didn't get hit with that diverticulitis back years ago, he might have went on a streak that would still be being talked about today in the UFC. I
Yeah.
mean, he's just such a phenomenal athlete. I mean, to be able to do what he's done, I mean, he's one of my favorite guys to watch, no matter what he's doing, just because he's just such a freak of nature. But
Yeah, he's so big.
Yeah, and Punk, as far as he goes, I mean, he had no background in anything. I mean, he wasn't an amateur wrestler. He had no athletic background prior to getting into pro wrestling, and he was just an MMA fan that wanted to try his hand at it because he had become friends with some jiu-jitsu guys and thought he could do a little training there. So I never had high hopes for him, and I'm not a big fan of him anyway as a person. But
right.
You know, I didn't really care that he got knocked out. To be honest.
Yeah, he's a teetotaler too, and he's supposed to be a super nice guy. The thing about CM Punk that I appreciated was the fact that he wanted to try it. The thing that I didn't appreciate is that he used his celebrity to go ahead and jump all the steps that required to get to that point. I mean, you don't come straight into the UFC as a no-name guy. Nobody else gets to do that. But you know, he used his celebrity to jump up through there, which kind of made it a little bit of a show. I wished he would have taken, you know, maybe one or two fights someplace else before he ever come up there and just made it legitimate. You know,
that's what a lot of people are saying now, and I'm not a big MMA guy, but that's kind of been the consensus. But I found that really interesting. That's a good point you make, because he was one of the guys that complained the most when he was in WWE. When a guy like The Rock or somebody would come back in and get a main event spot at WrestleMania, he would complain, you know, that he'd been there and he'd been working hard and he deserved that spot. And here these guys are coming back in and they're getting these spots. And then he turns around and does the exact same thing in UFC. And he got a gig with Marvel Comics, drawing a comic just because of who he was.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he's gotten other opportunities based on that too. So
yeah,
just kind of hypocritical of him, but that's kind of been his whole history. If you go back and really look at him.
Yeah. You know, and he has the opportunity to do well, you know, if he keeps training. I'm not sure how old he is. He may be a little old to start training now, but you know, he could always be a good jiu-jitsu guy. It's going to be awful hard to get in there and learn how to strike with some of these young guys that are so quick, you know. But you know, he had a good opportunity and he had a lot of heart coming in there and jumping in like that. You know, he got in there with a killer. Everybody didn't really understand how much of a killer he was at that point in time, but he's, you know, he got in there and, you know, come out like a man, you know, after he got done too. So I had a lot of respect for him after he got done. Just wished he'd have done it a little bit differently. That way he wouldn't have, you know, it wouldn't have been such a smear campaign after he got done.
Yeah, and then people think that it made a black eye on pro wrestling, but it didn't. I mean, nobody really cares.
Yeah.
People that are fans of pro wrestling are still going to be fans, and people that are fans of MMA are still going to be fans of MMA. So I don't think it really changed anything. Yeah,
and you know, and like you said about Brock Lesnar's diverticulitis, he might have even done good after that, except for Frank Mir come in and said, "I don't care a bit about you just got stomach surgery. I'm going to kick you right in the gut right now." And his first fight back, he just stomped him right where he got cut open. So he's a big guy, and you know, the thing is, if you look back at him over the years, I've seen some pictures that probably go back to 2008. You know, come through the years, 8 years worth. It's not like he's got any bigger. You know, even if he is on something, he's just maintaining whatever it is. So if whatever he fought had any system against Mark Hunt, he's always had it in his system. I mean, he's no bigger now than what he's ever been.
Yeah, I mean, if you go back and look at his pictures, even in high school and in the early part of college, I mean, he was a vanilla gorilla back then.
Yeah.
You know, he was 10 times bigger than everybody else. And that's just how it's always been. You know, it's just some people are genetically gifted, and you know, other people like us can't understand that because we don't have the same genetics.
Until you stand beside of a freak like that, you don't realize what walks around in this world.
I've always said, you know, he's really the first special attraction WWE has owned since Andre the Giant. And I've met Kevin Nash, I've met The Undertaker. I was not in awe of them as much as I was Brock Lesnar the night that he almost killed Jeremy Mackie in Tootsie's.
and just the visual of Brock Lesnar standing next to Mackie, that had to be
Of course, they had the security guard between them where Mackie had taken the picture of Brock, and it was just funny because we'd had such a positive, situation with the year before, positive experience with the Divas and with Jack Swagger. You know, it's kind of, I guess Mackie thought he was going to have that because, you know, rewind a year before that, we're about to leave Tootsie's on the second level, and as we're walking, I catch eyes with Nikki Bella, and I went, "Oh my God, that was oh, wait, oh my God, it's like 5 of them. So you go to the table, and it's really like Eva Marie and Renee Young before they were really on television much. Those two and Vicky Guerrero, which we don't have to include as much as the other ones, but Nikki Bella, then both Funkadactyls, Tamina. I mean, it was so many girls. Then Jack Swagger was there. And just see the visual of Mackie challenging Jack Swagger to a beer chugging contest when Jack Swagger's 6'5". So, and there was Mackie had a video on his phone forever of Jack Swagger and Nikki Bella dancing to "You Shook Me All Night Long." The band was playing, which was sexy as hell on Nikki's part, of course. And then, so fast forward a year later, we run into Paige. Then, okay, well, there's Paige. Then, like, oh my God, there's Brock Lesnar. And it's like, he give you I will rip off your head and crap down your neck stare first off. Then Mackie's like, I'm going to take a picture with him, bro. I said, not a good idea. I said, he's not a nice guy, Mackie. And then he said, well, what do you think? I mean, I want to get a picture of him. I was like, yeah, I would definitely take a picture of him, but it's not when he's looking. And so he's turned his head, drinking his Coors Light, and Mackie's got the flash on. So as the flash hits, Lesnar's like just glaring a hole, through Mackie. And then the security guard just comes over and grabs the phone, doesn't say one word the whole time, rips Mackie's phone away from him, deletes the picture, and slams it back in his chest.
Yeah, well, all I can say is thank goodness that security guard was there to protect Brock Lesnar from Mackie, because there's no telling what he might have done. Brock Lesnar's never been and experienced what the Putnam County people can do. So he probably a good thing that security guard was there. It would have got real scary and touchy.
Yeah.
Well, Mackie's undefeated against children. So I would say that I don't know how much that would extend out to Brock Lesnar, but I could see Mackie giving like a Bronco Buster or something. That would probably be his finishing move.
With all due respect to Brock Lesnar, I've seen some really bad tattoos, but this tattoo on his chest is just awful too. I don't know if
the sword. Yeah.
Is that what it's supposed to be as a sword?
I hope so.
It's awful. I'll tell you what it looks like, but it hurts. It's a different podcast.
It looks like it hurt like hell, though. Either way, it had to hurt.
Yeah, it should have hurt his feelings at that. That's what come
out. Well, Chad, we're kind of wrapping up. First, I was going to give you a thank you for shouting me out on the last episode there, episode 3, for being the official click checker. Anytime you need facts about the click, you just come on. That's my boys, the biggest pricks in history of professional wrestling. But
right, yeah, I knew I could count on you there for that, so that's good. I got you on standby if we need anything else.
They might not be the nicest guys, not going to win any popularity contests, but they took over the sport, and there's a reason you're still talking about them 20 years later, because they knew what they were doing.
Yeah, you got a point there. I can't deny that.
That, and one of them, the biggest suck up of the group, married the boss's daughter, so they'll always have jobs. So
yeah, that was probably the best move of all, right there.
Yeah, you can talk about the NWO and the DX and the time they stopped the show in Indianapolis to tell Vince how bad all the cartoon characters sucked and how bad Shane Douglas sucked and everything else. But that's the best move they made. Was letting him marry the daughter. But anyway. So, hey, man, plug all your social media. You've got about 85 Twitters. Go ahead and plug them all.
Good Lord. Well, this will turn into another interview segment here. But we've got if you want to check out my podcast, anybody out there that's a wrestling fan wants to check out Pro Wrestling Weekly, you can follow us on Twitter at PWW Podcast and check us out on thefanspodcast.com. You can listen there. You can also subscribe to the Fans Podcast Master Feed with your favorite podcast app, and you'll get everything delivered to your wireless device each week free of charge when a new episode drops, and that's every show on the network, so you can pick and choose whatever you want to listen to. And our new show that we've been talking about a lot tonight, Monday is War. You can follow us on Twitter at Monday is War, and also thefanspodcast.com, the same thing for that one, if you want to check that out. Relive some of the glory days of the 90s wrestling boom there. And that's it for those two shows. Just invite anybody out there that's a fan or used to be a fan or maybe new fans or what have you. Just check them out and interact with us on Twitter. Let us know what you think. We always enjoy hearing from listeners.
Awesome, Chad. Well, good luck. I continue to listen to your podcast. I enjoy them, and we hope that all of our wrestling fans will check you out.
All right, man. I appreciate it, guys.
Right.
Thanks, bud.
Thanks, man. Oh, we're recording. Goodness gracious. I thought Lucas was just Apologize, folks. That was a great interview with Chad Flatt. As always, great interview. Really knows his stuff about that. I would suggest all you guys check out Monday is War and also Pro Wrestling Weekly. I know we got several wrestling fans, so check him out.
Yeah, he's a really interesting guy. You know, he's really, really, really loves wrestling, doesn't he? To say the least.
Fair statement.
Fair statement. That guy loves wrestling. Very knowledgeable about it.
Well, hey, it's officially Super Bowl 51 week.
Super Bowl?
Houston, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So,
you know, the owner of the Atlanta Falcons is taking every person in his staff, from the gardener to the highest employee, taking everyone up to the Super Bowl.
That's when you know you're a high roller right there.
I mean, that cat's got some cash, but I mean, really, when Atlanta's in the Super Bowl, you know, it's kind of a big deal for them, right?
Yeah, I mean, it may not happen again for another 10 years.
Right.
It took them that long, or longer than that, 20 years, I guess, 19 years.
That's a big thing, and if you're in the NFL and just now making it after 20 years.
Yeah, boy, he was getting down to the other day. He was dancing up there, and his whole family was down there and doing, I don't know what kind of dance he was doing, but he had better rhythm than my two left feet for sure going on. So, yeah, man, know a lot of Falcons fans over the last week, you know, and it's just pretty much because it's Patriots haters.
Yeah, I would say a lot of bandwagon Atlanta fans.
Yeah, and I don't think it's actually I don't think they're going out to buy the license plate or the bumper sticker yet.
Yeah, they're not going to be wearing the who made those big fluffy jackets that the Chicago Bulls used to have?
Oh, probably Starter, or was it Starter back
there
then?
You go.
I
Yeah,
guess.
Not going out to buy the Starter jackets.
So, yeah, I think they're definitely all going to be Falcons fans on Sunday. Of course, I know a handful of Patriots fans, and bless them, you know. But what can I say, man? I mean, really, you know, why are we hating on them? Exactly why we're hating on them is because they win. That's it.
But it's the easiest people to hate on is the winner, right?
That's it. And you got an owner who, you know.
You got to punch up most of the times.
You know, and then you got the coach who, is he a jerk? Yeah. Is he the best coach in history? Probably. You know, I mean, it's just, you know, Bill Belichick doesn't have a lot of personality. He gives dry news conferences. You know, guess who else does? Greg Popovich, his good friend, the top 5 coach in the NBA history.
Right.
You know, they don't have to, you know, they're not there to be your buddy. They're not there to be, you know, Mr. Personality. They're there to win games. And Bill Belichick, you know, this is him and Brady's 7th Super Bowl together. It's the Patriots' 9th, 7th with Belichick and Brady. And they can be the first coach and quarterback combo ever to win 5 Super Bowls.
Belichick's like us, too. He's got a face for radio, too.
Oof. Yeah. And, I mean, you know, he just
he's got a personality for coaching, I guess.
and let's be real. You know, Aaron Rodgers, a lot of people's on his bandwagon right now. Peyton Manning, you know, always going to be loved.
Everybody's going to always be on his bandwagon.
Joe Montana, your old heads is going to be with Joe Montana. Tom Brady, man, may go down as the greatest of all time, and I get it. Now, you know, if he was not a quarterback, he probably wouldn't be that good looking of a guy. But as he stands, he's married to a supermodel.
Yep.
So he can get that cockiness. He can get that arrogance.
Let
me say that again. I mean, it's easy for guys to hate good-looking guys that have millions, that are married to a supermodel, that have 4 championships.
Can throw a perfect spiral.
And throw with bums. You know, he's never had any just lights out Pro Bowlers. Years in and years out. He had Randy Moss that, you know, year or two, but then, you know, he wears he promotes women's boots. That's enough to hate him. He wears Uggs.
Oof.
You know, but at the end of the day, hot dang, he's good.
Yeah.
He's real good. Probably the best ever. And that's just not living in the moment. That's probably the reality of it.
Well, I mean, that's coming from somebody that's not necessarily a Patriots fan either.
Ever.
Yeah.
No, I'm not at all. I mean, the least bit, but I can recognize
talent,
greatness. And the thing about the Patriots organization, it doesn't matter. Hello, Jamie Collins, linebacker, who was a big-time part of their team. He acted a fool. Guess what? He got shipped to the Cleveland Browns. They don't care how big of a star you are.
You're not bigger than the team.
If you don't, yeah, exactly. Exactly right. If you don't fit in their system, if you try to do your own thing, you're gone. At the same time, they'll take away these castaways from other teams who might have been very talented or in big market, you know, big name people. But they act stupid. Well, the Patriots will bring you in because you're talented. For the first time, you messed up. See you later. They don't play.
Well, there's some other big sports news besides the Super Bowl, and it's it's not nearly as impressive. What's Charles Barkley and LeBron James fighting about? I heard there was a cryptic tweet of him blasting out, "I'm sorry, did I lose you? Did I lose you? Did I? Did I? Did I?" What was that all about?
LeBron done that?
Yeah.
Well, LeBron, breaking news, he is a little bit of a drama king.
Queen.
Yeah, I wouldn't even. He's the king, so you got to be the drama
Yeah.
king. Here's the deal. Here's the deal on that. Long story short, Charles Barkley gets paid to give his honest analysis and his viewpoint.
Realistically, he gets paid to talk shit, and just that's what his personality is.
That's it.
Yeah.
Charles Barkley is one of my favorite people on this face of this planet because he doesn't give a shit
Yeah.
if you agree with what he says or not. That's his vantage point. That's what he gets paid to do. And for anybody 21 years and younger that doesn't know, that thinks Charles Barkley is just the fat ass that sits on the stage and talks crazy stuff because he'll fall asleep on the set, and maybe he's lost his passion for it. He's been doing this for 15 years now, at least 16 years with Turner. What he said is something I 100% agree with. He said LeBron James is being whiny. Okay, let's start over. LeBron James come out and says, "I need a effing playmaker."
Yeah.
And he's not talking about Kyrie Irving, one of the best point guards in the league, or Kevin Love, probably top 20 player in the league. He's saying they need a backup point guard, and he's asked the owner, and the owner has said when he come there, he would spend all the money in the world to make sure LeBron had everything he needed.
Yeah.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong. They won a championship last year.
What else does he need?
And that's what Charles Barkley said. Charles Barkley's quote was, "What else does he need?"
Oh, yeah.
Does he want all the good players? LeBron needs to stop being a whiner. Cleveland had the highest payroll in the history of the league, and he says the owner isn't doing what he said he would do. What else does he need? And went on to say, Shaq said they can't win with the team they had last year. Charles said they won last year.
Yeah.
Shaq said, "You don't know nothing about going back to back. I'm a champion. Kenny's a champion. You ain't never won no title. We know it gets harder every year." Shaq, given you have to improve. They let about 3 free agents walk. J.R. Smith's injured this year. But Charles brought up a very good point. He said they won the title last year and lost $40 million because they were over the luxury tax. So you filed a certain amount on your payroll.
Mm-hmm.
And once you go over that threshold, when you got all these big contracts that Cleveland's got, they hit the luxury tax, and you got to pay all this money back. So they have to be one of the few teams in history that won a championship and lost money. So LeBron is saying all this, and they're already over. They're paying all they can pay. But what it is, he's butthurt because the team they beat last year went stacked with, in my opinion, I don't know. Who's the best player in the league? LeBron, Curry, Durant. I like Durant. Is he the best overall? No, probably not. LeBron's still probably the greatest player in the league. But, he's pissed because they were able to go from a 73-win team who could have realistically won the finals against Cleveland, and they went and restacked with their biggest rival. Right? So he's a little hurt about that. I think there's 3 factors. Well, let's get into what LeBron said. He said, Charles said, he's a hater. What makes what he says credible just because he's on TV? I'm not going to let him disrespect my legacy. I'm not the one who threw someone through a window. I never spit on a kid. I never had any unpaid debt in Vegas. I never said I'm not a role model on a commercial. I never showed up to All-Star Weekend on a Sunday because I was in Vegas all weekend partying. All I've done for my entire career is represent the NBA the right way. 14 years, I never got in trouble. I respected the game. Print that. Screw Charles Barkley. I'm here to win ball games and take care of my teammates. Take care of what's the word? Oh, my posse. I'm tired of biting my tongue. There's a new sheriff in town.
But he's degrading his own legacy, complaining about needing other players. If he really thought he was the greatest player in the league, then why would he even think he needed another player to play with him? He's disrespecting himself by saying this stuff.
And he's disrespecting the teammates he does have.
Yeah.
And like Tristan Thompson said, the power forward on the team, or he may be center, I don't know what position he plays. He said, "Hey, shut the hell up, basically. We got to go out. We got to roll out with who we got."
Yeah.
And this is disrespecting his teammates. And they're bringing in Mario Chalmers, who came off of a year-long ACL. He's not that good. Chalmers is a good player, but coming off ACL, it's scary. They're bringing in Kirk Heinrich, who hasn't been relevant in 7-8 years. They're at 36 years old. They're bringing in Lance Stevenson, who's been terrible the last 2 or 3 years. Here's my problem with LeBron James saying this. Charles Barkley got paid. He said that was his job, to give his fair criticism on how he felt LeBron, how many of us feel like LeBron James is doing, and that's whining.
Yeah.
If you're ultimately the man, if you're the king, if you're the greatest player in the world, if you got chosen one across your back, shut the hell up and play basketball, right?
Yeah. I mean, he's like a lot of other celebrities that's let their celebrity go to their head, and he thinks that people want to hear what he's got to say.
Right.
Realistically, they don't care. I mean, you've got a completely different set of problems than what we got. If you're making millions of dollars, and then going to complain about not being able to play the game the way you want to play it whenever your team's already spent an exorbitant amount of money and then had to pay $40 million back because they had to pay so much to get you what you wanted, you kind of need to shut the hell up and just play.
Exactly. My problem with it is he went personal. Charles went on a professional level. LeBron brought up personal stuff on Charles Barkley. Did Charles Barkley do all the stuff he said? Absolutely. Have I ever said that LeBron's right. He's never gotten in trouble. He's been a model citizen. But you come out and you pick on Phil Jackson by saying he's racist by saying the word posse. Bullshit. Get out of here with that. And then you got all this stuff. Yeah, Charles Barkley did do all that. But you're educating yourself to a young amount of kids that don't know Charles Barkley, the guy who was dominant player, top 20 player of all time. You're putting this in the light saying this is all he'll be remembered for. You know, three things I think are bothering LeBron right now. This is my analysis of this. One is his body's broken now.
Well, he's getting old.
He's getting older.
Yeah.
He's like the rest of us. He gets a little older and he gets a little crankier.
He get a little grumpy.
A little grumpy.
Yeah.
There's a thing. Michael Jordan's the single greatest player I've ever seen in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Shaquille O'Neal's the most physically dominant player I've ever seen in my life. One player has stopped both of them. Father Time.
Oh, yeah. He'll get him.
He's going to get LeBron.
Yeah, he'll get him. He wins every time.
Every time. He's the only person undefeated.
Yeah.
LeBron, I mean, yeah, hey, I'd still take LeBron for another good 3-year span.
Mm-hmm.
Realistically, a lot of players don't play the seasons he plays. They stop in April. He's been for 14 seasons playing well into June. That's going to catch up to you. Secondly, you look at it in many regards, he's a child star.
Yeah.
I mean, you realistically look at this, and whether it be Lindsay Lohan, Britney Spears, whoever, at some point they have a breakdown.
Oh, yeah.
They've been in that limelight so long.
Well, that's my point I was going to get to is that, you know, I know he had it hard whenever he was young. You know,
his mother, 16.
Yeah, all that. You know, he had a rough start, which was a relatively short time, and it was less amount of time than what he's been rich and famous and what have you.
Yeah.
It's got to him. It's got to his head. It does it to everybody, right? You get used to things a certain way. You know, everybody was trying to pat his back and powder his butt for him, do whatever they could for him for so long. Now that they're trying to pull away from him a little bit. Why are they trying to pull away? Because you're getting old and grumpy. You know, your hair's starting to fall out. Yeah. Your headband's on top of your head now instead of on your forehead. Yeah. And he's not marketable like he used to be. Now, is he marketable? Obviously, I'm not saying he's not. He can't go out here and get on a Sprite commercial and do whatever he wants to do, but he's not that same person he was at that point in time. People are starting to pull away from him. That's like you're saying. That's what age does, and he's just not used to it now.
And it's this. He's not gaining any new friends and fans by acting this way.
Not like that.
And the thing is, like I said, in the spotlight. I mean, this guy's been on the cover of Sports Illustrated since he was a sophomore in high school. I barely made the damn yearbook when I was a sophomore in high school.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And this guy's been in the spotlight so long, and it's maybe that this Steph Curry thing, and this Kevin Durant thing, he can't take other people getting the limelight.
Yeah.
Even when Steph got the first unanimous MVP, LeBron kind of threw a little shade and said maybe I should have been the first unanimous MVP. You weren't. So
yeah. So get over it.
And another thing, you talk about not being marketable. That's my third point. He's Mr. Social Activist hero now.
Yeah.
And my own opinion on this is, and this is strictly just what I've felt for about a year now. He's never going to be as big a star as Michael Jordan.
Never going to be.
No matter what he does, Michael Jordan is still, he's been retired for basketball the second time now, 14 years. He's still selling a hell of a lot of Nikes. He's still selling a whole lot of Gatorade. He's still selling a lot of Hanes.
Yeah. And at that point in time, though, Michael Jordan had something that LeBron James didn't have the luxury of having, was no other people in the league that was anywhere on his level.
Not on his level.
It sounded like I was defending LeBron James there, and I'm not.
Right, but yeah. I get what you're saying. And but what I'm getting at with the social activist hero thing I mentioned, Michael Jordan
never did that.
Refrained. Michael Jordan was a businessman.
Mm-hmm. Still is, through and through.
Yep. And it wasn't so common for players to be putting out their feelings about the situation. LeBron was all up on some Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Yeah.
Right? And LeBron, he's looking back like, okay, I can't top Michael in tennis shoe sales. I can't top him probably on the basketball court, no matter how much I do, how many records I break. And he's going to be in the top 5 of so many categories when he's done playing.
Mm-hmm.
But he's never going to be Michael Jeffrey Jordan. So what can I do that Michael never did do? Well, Michael never did speak out about racism and political views. So maybe if I'm the next Jim Brown or I'm the next Muhammad Ali, I'm the next Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, maybe my people will put me on that pedestal that I thrive for.
Mm-hmm.
That he's wanting so bad.
He's segregating an entire group of people whenever he's doing stuff like that. And like you said, it's something Michael Jordan never did. And that's one of the reasons why, that thing he's trying to do is to get in touch with more people and bolster himself up higher. But the thing is he's actually just limited himself by doing that. There's an entire group of people that are going to, from no fault of his own, it's just the way the world works right now, especially the United States, is there's an entire half of the country that's, just dropped out of ever bolstering him up. That didn't Michael Jordan, because he didn't do that stuff, Yeah.
He's for sure lost some fans. I would no doubt in the last 3 months. These comments.
Oh yeah.
But I'm my Twitter poll 70% on Charles Barkley's wagon. I'm on Charles Barkley's wagon.
Right.
I say screw LeBron.
Yeah.
And then on this one at least.
Shut up and play basketball.
Hey, he's a great player.
I'm gonna shut up and go to work tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, let's get to that. Let's talk about all these little padded asses that think they can just go out and block roads and everything else.
You are entitled as an American citizen to a right to protest things. That is an indelible right as a United States citizen. That's the way a lot of things were founded. That's the way a lot of things get changed. Protest is a powerful tool if you're going to use it correctly. Yep. And it has a true backing whenever you do that. If your message is scattered, if you're not all on the same page, it loses all of its credibility. Right. And that's what's going on right now, is that the message that they're trying to promote is so scattered. Everybody's jumping on the bandwagon because everybody just wants to be outraged at something. And the problem that you get whenever you get that is that everybody's not doing the same thing. And it completely goes against whenever the organism starts eating itself, like all of these protests that happened during the Women's March and after the Women's March. I don't want people to think I'm against the Women's March. I'm completely for their right to march. And I think if their message had been more clear, it would have been a very powerful thing. There was 900,000 people that marched, or 900,000 women that marched in Los Angeles area. That's fine. I'm fine with it. What happened was the message got skewed.
It did.
It got real skewed. And
there was a lot of women on Facebook saying, I'm sorry, I'm confused. What are we not getting?
Right.
And the funny thing was the one sign that said, maybe one day a woman will have the same rights as a gun.
Yeah.
And I loved how people roasted her because, let's be honest, guns.
Yeah.
You can't go in certain places, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It was a funny post.
Yeah.
Then there was the one somebody posted, and Curtis Hatcher, God bless him, Clint texted to me, and I didn't see Curtis's original post. It was the two vaginas, women wearing the vaginas on their head.
Yeah.
Curtis said, "Well, maybe if they trim that thing, this is somebody take them serious."
Yeah.
But I mean, what are you putting out when you got walking vaginas out there?
Yeah, but and see that very thing right there is why that side's eating itself.
Yeah.
Because the LGBTQ, I think LGBTQIA community come out against them because they said that gender doesn't necessarily, what the gender you're born with and the genitalia that you're born with doesn't necessarily make you a woman. So they come out against the Women's March. So that's another example of their message getting skewed. They're all wanting the same thing. They're wanting equal rights, but then they're not giving themselves opportunity to have equal rights. And then one of the things they started boycotting and breaking windows in a Starbucks, and then and then the other thing, I can't remember the other thing,
was the FedEx driver.
Yeah, and not just the FedEx driver. There was another place that they started started rioting and busting windows and stuff. The two main places that they started rioting and busting windows out and stuff had given over $500,000 to Hillary Clinton's campaign. It's a wholesale problem just a wholesale attack with no reason behind it.
That side of the fence is all about equalness until you don't agree with them.
Yeah, and
then we're all I don't know. I don't want to.
Yeah, they're what they're lacking is a strong leader. They're lacking strong leadership. because things can change, and I know why they're saying that they don't have equal rights and this and that. They're just mad at Trump, what Trump said. The Trump thing Trump said, it should have never been aired. He really should have never said it. You know, but he probably didn't have political aspirations at that point in time. I'm not going to make excuses for him.
Let's be honest, he's never held his tongue, regardless of the situation.
On absolutely anything. But, you know, he needs to hold his tongue now. I don't think he needs to apologize for what he said. He may need to explain himself or something to some degree, but he's the president now, so he really shouldn't be entertaining those things. But
right.
He needs to stop entertaining them right now.
He needs to get off Twitter now, like yesterday.
But, you know, them saying that they don't have equal rights, well, they need to be more specific as to what right it is that they're trying to get, because that's everybody's confused. What right is it that you think you don't have? You know, do you think it's the right to not get raped? Obviously, yeah. I mean, I want you to have that too. I wish that never happened to anybody. You know, and I wish somebody would come out as a good leader for that group and actually figure out what it is they're trying to say. Which unfortunately they kind of might have missed their chance at this point in time.
I would think so. And we had friends that marched somewhere. I don't know where they marched at, but
Washington, I believe.
Washington, and I mean, good for them if that's what they want to do. I mean, we're not sitting here.
Yeah.
It's just so much. It's like everybody's just mad about something. I don't know what everybody's.
Yeah, they're furious about something.
I don't know. I feel like we're living like in another
dimension. You know,
it's crazy. And then, like I said, these jackoffs out here burning the American flag, and thank God that FedEx driver
snatched
that was
him
pretty
up
cool.
Right
and another cool video I saw was like a Durango parked on a curb somewhere, and the protesters were standing there blocking him. He gets out and he's trying to get them to move. I think it's for another country the way it looks though. And then did you see this video?
Mm-mm.
Right. So they're like beating him back, fighting him towards his car. So he gets in and he's all cool. It'll start with he bounces off the curb. All of a sudden you just hear it just he does a big donut right there and just clocks people, just running over.
Yeah.
And coming from somebody who has run over somebody on accident, it's not a good feeling in your gut.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I've hit someone and it sucked.
Yeah.
I didn't do it like this, and I can imagine, but you know where I stand on this? He didn't hit enough of them.
Right.
That's stupid. Get out of the damn road. What do you think's going to happen when you're on a public highway?
Yeah, and
get the hell out of the road, man.
The whole thing about doing those marches and stuff is there's ways to do that. You can organize a march. If you're going to shut down a road, shut down some type of municipality drive, you need to register those marches and stuff. You don't just need to sporadically have it pop up, because there's emergency services that need to get through there.
I agree. So we usually get off on this, but I just think if you're standing on the road, you need to run over.
We'll stand on the tracks when the train's coming through.
That's what they said in Major League, so I believe it.
I do too. So
let's take us a little break here.
All right, we're back.
All right.
All right.
Now that we've
be a lot cooler if you did, man.
Be a lot cooler. Now that we've alienated all of our protesting, marching fans.
I don't think we alienated all of them. You know what? Nah. Because I'm fair about it. Protesting is a tool that half of those people were using incorrectly, or more than half of them. They were
being tools instead of using their tools.
Yeah, and then there was a small section of the people that were trying to use it correctly, an organized march. Really, there wasn't a whole lot of bad went around it. It could have been a lot worse. Just need to straighten their message up a little bit. Clarity of message.
Well, we live in a world where, of course, yes, I'm going to sound like a complete hypocrite, but like everybody thinks their opinion matters, and it does. And it does. But
sometimes.
Everybody
said, the old adage is there's no such thing as a bad question. Well, yeah, there is. If the question's stupid, then there's such thing as a bad question.
Yeah, the difference is we're like, well, you're talking about that. You guys are belting out podcasts and your opinions. We do this for fun, and we have a lot of lighthearted stuff on here.
Yeah.
We're interviewing people we really look forward to. We're not going out there and telling you, I don't know. It's not worth talking about.
Anyway.
Have fun doing that. But if I see somebody in the street with a picket sign, I'm gonna clip you.
Hey, let's get back to the Super Bowl.
I'm gonna clip them.
And
rat-a-tat-tat.
Let's do some betting on the Super Bowl.
Yeah, because literally, like every year,
you can bet on everything.
Millions and millions
$1 million
of dollars are bet on the Super Bowl. But This year, there's a really odd thing being bet on.
Luke Bryan?
Lucas.
No, don't call him Lucas.
Luke Bryan, who's singing in the national anthem. So there's so what will Luke be wearing when he starts singing the national anthem? Blue jeans or any other pants or shorts?
Why? Well,
we know.
I would say, why would that even be a bet? That's the dumbest bet ever. If he,
what's he gonna be wearing? Board shorts?
Yeah, I would say, what has anybody ever seen him in but a one size too small pair of pants?
What's he gonna have some plaid golf shorts in?
Yeah,
his nuts are gonna be showing in some bedazzled blue jeans.
Yeah, that's the only way anybody ever sees him. Hey, what's this other one here? Will Luke be wearing a hat when he appears on screen singing the national anthem?
Black duck hunter.
Of course he's going to be. Of course. That's a bad bet. You shouldn't take. You shouldn't bet the other way.
Every time I've ever seen him perform, he's had a hat on. At award shows, he doesn't wear hats unless he's performing.
Yeah, and I would say as soon as he starts singing, he throws that hat right on.
Yeah, and I would think he'd have a hat on. It may be different where he's singing on a national stage for the national anthem. It may be something different.
Yeah,
but he's going to be wearing blue jeans.
Yeah,
guaranteed GDT it.
Yeah. The last thing that you can bet on here is, will Luke forget or omit a word from the national anthem?
Everybody does.
I doubt whether he does, and I want to take up for him just for a little bit. He's country enough that I bet he doesn't. Okay. Now, he's not super country, but I bet I would take that bet. I think that's the only one on there that has some legitimacy to it.
So you think he's not going to miss?
He
may not.
I don't think he's going to miss one of those.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got you on that one. Well,
yeah, that'd be the only one I'd bet on.
You know, Lucas, we were talking about pet peeves.
Yeah.
A few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to see what Luke Bryan's going to do, whether he wears blue jeans or what. But I laughed out loud earlier in my car when I was driving. I was recklessly looking at Instagram and driving, and there was a girl that smiled and she didn't have top lip, and I know that's a pet peeve of yours, so I started laughing.
Yeah.
What's the deal, man?
I don't know, man. It's so weird. So weird. I don't know why you suck your whole lip up and under your
teeth.
Yeah.
Look, I'm smiling like, is this sexy?
Yeah, I love it.
Is it sexy?
Yeah.
Does it make you want to hit
You know what it's almost
you
as
sexy
as? You want
to hit this?
Yeah. You know what it's almost as sexy as? These senior pictures that I found of you.
That's that bullshit, Lucas.
Yeah. Hey.
This is off. What are you talking about?
Yeah. So
Jesus Christ, why we gotta bring me up into this?
My parents had a little bit of a water leak.
You didn't say you were gonna talk about this on podcast.
I know. My parents had a little bit of a water leak in one of their rooms, and I went to clean some of my old stuff out of there. Lo and behold, I found not one, not two, but 3 different pictures of DK's senior pictures.
Damn, son.
Mean mugging the camera.
You got a collage of me in your old room?
Hey, it's about to be on social media is where it's about to be.
No, it ain't.
Yeah, it is, too.
I'll delete your account. I'll report we got a shrine of me in your old room?
Yeah, and everybody else is about to get to see it, too. It's mean mugging this camera.
I'll approve one picture. I'm defriending you from life.
Oh, I know which one it is, too. You're leaned up on, and I know who took these pictures. I know who posed you.
Yeah.
I'm not. I hadn't thought about it for years, but as soon as I seen him, I went. I know. I know who clicked that picture.
Yeah, he had a definitive style.
Yeah,
I kept my shirt on though.
Yeah. Did he tell you don't smile, just look provocatively at the camera?
He told me to F the camera.
It looks like you were trying to.
F the camera.
Yeah, look at the camera.
So what did I have, like?
A straight white t-shirt.
White t-shirt.
More mustache than what you have right now.
Yeah, man, I messed my beard up this week. I was trimming my beard, and I'm like, worst trimmer ever. So I got this like Hell's Angels goatee going on. I don't have a mustache.
Yeah.
I trim my beard.
It's real interesting. I'd love to put the picture of you from high school right beside of the picture of you right now.
Yeah. I was a dork in high school. Like, I was the only popular kid that was that dorky, I think.
You had an interesting style in the picture because you only had a white t-shirt. I guess you had pants on too. I couldn't see that part, but
I did definitely
just
have pants on.
Just a straight white tee and just making love to the camera.
Yeah, well, it was a serious pick.
It was as serious as I've ever seen you in my life.
I was pursuing a career in Gap modeling.
Yeah.
At the time. Aeropostale was cool.
Yeah, it was
Tommy Hilfiger. It might have been a Tommy Hilfiger white tee.
I bet you had Tommy Hilfiger pants on for sure.
At that time, maybe. Probably Levi's, though.
Yeah. Anyway, it was interesting. I died laughing while I was cleaning that room.
I'm not amused.
I'm super amused.
You know what I'm not amused about is when my dad built his house, he took the collage that my mom put together, my senior pictures, and God, I was such a dork. Like, why did I wear some of the stuff that I wore?
Mm-hmm.
And he's got it like front center. You walk in Rick's house, boom, there it is. And I said, Rick, take it down. Just leave Vivian's up there with her 10 rings on each, one ring on each finger and her 2 cans of Aquanet.
I would say the early 90s coiffed hair.
Yeah, man. But I was wearing like Laker jerseys up in my senior pictures, white tees, gold chains, because I was like making them say,
I was thinking while ago you might have had a white gold chain on.
I had that ice, I had that platinum, I had that cross. Yeah. I was ate up with it.
I'm pretty sure a big watch too.
Yeah, I did. I was pretty hood.
Yeah.
God, it's embarrassing. It's so embarrassing.
Yeah.
You bring in pictures out, I'm gonna Tanya hard in your knee.
Kneecap. Well, I kind of jumped something here that I was.
Was you?
Was going to talk about here. It goes back to Super Bowl. I just got excited about telling people about your pictures and forgot about it. Tell us how much it's going to cost to go to Super Bowl 51.
This is like bottom of the barrel. Like you're flying out of Chattanooga on the what's the airline? There's
Southwest or
no. There's an airline like out of Knoxville and Chattanooga. It's like basically
Volunteer Air or something,
like Buddy Holly Airlines or something. Because that's where you. I know that's a tacky.
Right.
That's a tacky joke, but because Buddy Holly died in a plane crash. But a Legionnaire is what it's called. Like Don Asbury's like really skeptical of ever using a Legionnaire. We're talking about going on a trip and. He's like, no, there's a reason it's cheap.
Yeah.
Right? So.
You got that twin prop duck plane,
yeah. You're flying out of Legionnaire. You're staying at America's Best Value Inn. Mm-hmm. You're taking ham sandwiches in your briefcase.
Mm-hmm. You ain't buying anything
you
while
ain't
you're
buying
there.
Nothing. You're sitting.
No jersey.
This is Uber. This is your Uber rides. This is everything. I mean, whatever. Average bottom of the barrel price is $7,000. That's from Atlanta to Houston, on a flight, hotel, tickets.
God,
it's funny because
$7,000.
We've always said, and that's the first time I've never really dug into this because I've never cared.
Yeah,
until I've done a radio or podcast show, and it was funny. Like the Titans, when they were in Super Bowl in '99 or in 2000 for the '99 season, it was in Atlanta.
Yeah, so
all of us Titans hardcore fans have always been like, "Oh man, can you imagine if they make it again? It's in Atlanta, dude. We got to go."
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I'll reconsider that.
Yeah, for $7,000. I've got anything else to do than spend $7,000 to go to a football game.
Like hookers?
No.
You said anything.
Yeah, I did say that. Maybe I should re-clarify that. Not
probably.
Because
a lot of people would have assumed that you would buy hookers.
I don't think anybody would have assumed that.
Huh. It's weird that I went there then.
It's weird.
Apparently somebody would have thought that.
One guy would have thought that.
Sounds like a good investment to me.
Oh, well, hello.
I'm just kidding. I've never seen a hooker in real life. Well, not one that charges at least.
Denying it now.
We are that close to sliding.
We're going to go ahead and end the podcast.
Joking. Like last night, one thing I never get tired of is people telling me how fat I got.
Oh, I love that. And
why do people think it's okay to tell you that you've gained weight?
I don't have any idea. They just get too comfortable, and they don't know that I'll slap you right in the mouth.
I walked in the store, and there's a guy that I really like now. I think he's cooler than the fan. He walked in and said, "Damn, you're getting big." I said, "Thanks. I hadn't noticed it yet." Thanks. Appreciate it. I don't have any insecurities about it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, I talked to old boy, and he said that he told me you got big." Mm-hmm. I said, "Would you watch Lifetime too, queer?"
Yeah. Hey, man, thanks for keeping talking about it whenever you didn't get my hint the first time whenever I told you thanks and stop.
Like what two guys? Like me and you will talk about it
to each
other.
other.
Like, dude, man, I've got to do something. Yeah, man, me too. what two guys? Like, if we were sitting around, like,
I never sat around with anybody else and talked about.
Dude, have you seen Josh lately?
Yeah,
like, he's put on at least 20 pounds.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he needs to go and do some yoga or something. That's what I think about. When you tell me that you've talked to another man about my weight, I envision you talking like this right here, and you got your hand held like this. You better get off of me. If I was ugly, I'd worry about it.
Yeah.
Even with my ugly ass goatee I've got going on right now.
Oh man,
this is rough.
Yeah.
I feel like I need a leather jacket.
Couldn't have made it any better whenever I was giving you crap about it whenever you come down. You're probably already self-conscious.
God almighty, man. I mean, people don't know how sensitive I am. Everybody's always like, you're so this.
Yeah,
and
he's a real sensitive guy.
He's so cocky. I'm not cocky. I'm like really insecure. And these ass clowns that keep telling me at the gas station that I'm fat ain't helping.
Well, let's just end it.
So, hey, well, serious note, I would like to say one thing.
I was hoping you was about to blast somebody out for gaining weight.
I wished I could.
Yeah.
I don't take.
As long as it's not me, don't do it.
Yeah. Nobody's gonna take this serious now that we've just been on that big rant.
Yeah.
But the family of Evan Hayes, who Stephanie and Alan Hayes, who's Stephanie Rich from Salina, who's around about our age, they found out last week, or about a week and a half ago, their youngest son Evan, 6 years old, I think he's 6, 7 years old, got leukemia.
Mm.
So that's a tough battle for everybody, and I know there's plenty of people out there that's going to help. They got with me Sean Anderson and Joanna Williams that I do junior pro basketball with last week. And this is not putting anything on us; it's just something that we decided to do as a group. Is we gave all of our gate money to the family, all the concession money to the family, and we put donation jars out there. So, I mean, and it couldn't have been done without everybody because, we had the right intentions, but we only charge $1 to give those games. All our concessions basically are $1.
Yeah.
So we're not going to get a ton. So I just want to say thank you to all the awesome people that came through and left some really big donations. I mean, I know I took up $300 or $400 bills, and people don't have to do that, and that's pretty freaking awesome that they done that.
That is awesome, and that's a terrible thing that they're going to have to go through there. My heart really breaks for those.
It's curable. I mean, it's they caught it early enough and everything, and I've known Stephanie for a long time. I think she's pretty awesome, and Alan has always been cool to me through basketball and everything, and so we were happy to do that. I just want to thank everybody that stepped up because, like I said, our $1 at a time was only going to go so far. People really helped out. I know Salina had done something also at some of their ball games. I hadn't really followed it that closely, but I know they were raising money at Clay County games also. Also want to point out they have a bank account at Bank of Salina that you can donate to, and then also they have a GoFundMe page. I don't know, but you can look it up. The Evan Hayes, I'm sure. If you do enough research on the GoFundMe, you can find it. But I just think it's cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
That everybody's helping out.
Reaching out.
I mean, it's the power of living in a small community.
That's right.
It never let you down around here, I think. So. Yeah.
All right, everybody. That's our show for the week. We thanks everybody for listening, and
we do thanks everybody.
Thanks
you every time.
Thanks you every time.
Every time.
Every time. We're gonna hop off here, and I'm gonna slap Dustin just
I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. It is a stupid goatee because I'm one of these days. That's why I pay somebody to trim my beard for me when I get my hair cut. They trim my beard, and Lindsay's like, "Why would you do that?" I was like, "Why?" Because I got.
Because I'm gonna screw it up
every freaking time. So what I'm gonna do the rest of the night? It's 8:20. We just recorded what feels like 6 hours of podcast. We skipped around for so long. I'm gonna go home, and
you're gonna shave that off?
No, because I got too fat of a face to do that. And God dang, you seen Dustin, man? He shaved his beard and his goatee. His face, I thought his body was fat. You ever see his face? And then it's even worse, like nose hairs come up when you get, it seems like these nose hairs come out of nowhere. You know what this was like?
At 30, they start crawling out of your face.
Do you know what pisses me off at 30 about nose hairs? Is you got one hanging out.
Mm-hmm.
This is so random. I thought we were quitting the show like 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, but you started this.
I pull one nose hair.
Yeah, cry like a baby.
I missed that one. 16 comes out with it, but that one son of a gun's still in there.
Yeah.
Tell me how that is.
I don't know.
Random thought.
But
I'm going to go home. I used to have, shut up. I got those $3.47 jazz cameras from high school. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look through my high school album. I'm going to find the absolute worst. You mess with me.
It don't take much to find a bad picture of me, Jack.
Well, don't put hey, let's make a truce right now.
Hey, I deleted all my social media, so I really ain't posted nothing.
You say that all the time, like the day you said I deleted my Twitter, and then it's like you had Twitter. I got on there and you had Twitter.
Oh, I guess I just deleted them off my phone.
God, you're an idiot. But I'm trying to make a truce because last friend I tried to make a truce with, he's mad at me right now.
Oh yeah, I might not even talk to you. I might not go eat lunch with you in Cookville next time you're up there.
That hurt my feelings.
We got to end this, folks.
I love you, James Hatcher.
Thanks for
Quit
listening.
being mad at me. We're brothers.
See you, everybody.
Peace.